After a long break, a new chapter of One Piece has come out. After a long and sad Kuma flashback, the story is finally going forward. In the last chapter, Bonnie and the others couldn't even move in front of Saturn, but Kuma's entry saved them from annihilation. Besides this major development, however, there's another important matter that needs to be clarified, which is, will Kizaru join Straw Hat Pirates to fight Saturn and the world government? So, let's break it down. Since coming on Egghead, Kizaru has been behaving rather oddly. Even during his fight against Luffy, Kizaru was assigned to kill Vegapunk, but now it seems that the Admiral is split between his duties as a Marine and his friendship with the scientist and the others. One Piece. Chapter 1104 suggests that despite appearances, Kizaru is helping the Straw Hat Pirates because during the chapter, Kizaru's feelings were exposed. But before that, let's talk about the beautiful punch of Kuma on Saturn. It was so satisfying to see Saturn flying through the buildings, although he was able to regenerate himself. Also, now it is confirmed that Kuma uses haki, and it was nice to see Bonnie and Kuma together. However, as Saturn was trying to counterattack Kuma, Sanji and Frankie went to protect him. Frankie fired his radical beam at Saturn, which went through his body, but the Elder regenerated himself just like he did after being hit by Kuma. Meanwhile, Kizaru was seemingly down as he was hit by a haki punch from Gear 5 in previous chapters. Right at that moment, however, the Admiral appeared out of nowhere and struck Frankie, sending him flying. Seeing Kizaru, Vegapunk asked his friend, "Your heart can't handle doing this anymore, can't it? This must be sad for you, Kizaru." And Kizaru replied with almost tears in his eyes, saying, "I should have worn darker sunglasses." Kizaru has been conflicted ever since he received the mission to kill Dr. Vegapunk. This is the reason why he didn't even go all out in his fight with Luffy, which also explains why the battle looked quite odd, as if both fighters weren't particularly interested in overcoming each other. Vegapunk teased Kizaru about his discomfort, and the Admiral's answer indirectly confirmed his evident uneasiness. Kizaru defeated Sentomaru, fought Luffy to an end, allegedly targeted Vegapunk several times, and now, as seen in One Piece chapter 1104, struck Frankie. However, that doesn't mean he has any real killing intent against the Straw Hats or his former friends. Kizaru's mental state seems the same as Garp's during the Paramount War. Kizaru is fighting and launching some attacks here and there, evidently unwilling to go any further. He isn't using the real extent of his powers and has no intention of doing so. He is trying to find a balance between carrying out his duties as a Marine and respecting his human feelings. That's exactly what Garp did back then in Marineford. Garp attacked Marco, but that doesn't diminish his internal conflict, especially as he also let Luffy get past him. Similarly, Kizaru taking on Luffy and the others doesn't mean that he is putting much commitment into it. In the beginning, Kizaru appeared as an enormous obstacle for the protagonist, but as the story continued, it seems increasingly clear that he has no real intention of killing Vegapunk. The battle between Kizaru and Luffy ended up in a sort of draw, allegedly leaving both of them unable to move. Luffy hit Kizaru with a technique called the Gum Gum Star Gun, which sent the Admiral flying and supposedly injured him to the point where he needed to rest. However, Luffy was in the same situation. Having used almost all his energy to maintain the Gear 5 transformation, Luffy reached his limits as soon as he performed the Star Gun. He fell to the ground exhausted and started asking for food, which he would need to regain his stamina. Shortly after, Luffy is seen eating a massive quantity of food that appeared out of nowhere. The person who assisted Luffy was not shown, but it's made clear that he or she did so in a flash, to the point where not even Saturn noticed what happened. Manga's official confirmation is still pending. It's highly likely that the person who fed Luffy was none other than Kizaru. Before Luffy received food, Kizaru was lying down on the ground, thinking about Sentomaru and Bonnie's fate. Right after Luffy began to eat, Kizaru was shown in a very different position. He was now sitting up and seemed short of breath. It must be noted that only a few moments passed between the two scenes, and that at the time, the Straw Hats, Bonnie, Vegapunk, and his satellites were all unable to move or busy elsewhere. Hence, no one of them could have possibly assisted Luffy. Not to mention, the mysterious person managed to gather an enormous quantity of food, bring it to Luffy, and disappear, all in the span of a few seconds. If there's a person in One Piece capable of such a feat, that's Kizaru, who can move at unparalleled speed thanks to the powers of his Glint Glint fruit. Moreover, Kizaru spent a lot of time on Egghead in the past, which means he likely knows the location of the automatic cooking machine. Using that appliance would be the only way to gather such a large amount of food in such little time. The easiest and most logical explanation is that Kizaru used his Devil Fruit ability to move at the speed of light, reach Vegapunk's cooking machine, generate the food, and bring it to Luffy. The fact that of all characters, One Piece author Ichiro Oda purposely showed Kizaru both immediately before and right after Luffy received food seems like a pretty evident hint on the mangaka's part. Concurrently, Oda emphasized Saturn's anger at what happened, as he knew for sure that no one on the good side could move. Among the food that Luffy received was a bowl of ramen, the same food that Kizaru was eating before landing on Egghead. This might be another hint that the person who fed Luffy is the Admiral. Kizaru probably decided to prioritize his morals over his position, but didn't want to openly defy Saturn and the world government. When Sentomaru was just a child, Kizaru trained him to become Vegapunk's bodyguard. Sentomaru even refers to the Admiral as uncle, which only proves their close bond. When he came to Egghead, Kizaru fought and beat Sentomaru, but refrained from killing him, even though he could have easily done so. As seen in the recent One Piece chapters, Kizaru wasn't only very close to Sentomaru and Vegapunk, but even to Kuma and Jewelry Bonnie. Despite his attempts to claim that it was just part of his work, Kizaru spent a lot of time on Egghead with Vegapunk and the others, creating happy memories with them. At one point, Kizaru, Sentomaru, Vegapunk, Kuma, and Bonnie feasted together, eating pizza and even cheerfully dancing to the rhythm of Nika. With the lives of all his friends now threatened by the world government, of which he is a prominent representative, Kizaru is torn between his feelings and his sense of duty. As Vegapunk said in One Piece chapter 1104, however, Kizaru's emotions are evidently taking over. This is possibly a result of him learning that Saturn was the one who cruelly destroyed Bonnie and Kuma to manipulate him to turn him into a mindless cyborg at his service. Apart from being annoyed by the idea of hurting his friends, Kizaru also became irritated by Saturn's evil schemes. However, true to his moral philosophy, unclear justice, Kizaru didn't take a strong and unambiguous position. Instead of fully switching sides, he likely just stopped blindly obeying the world government and started acting in a way that enabled him to both carry out his orders and protect his friends. A man who described himself as a cog in the machine, Kizaru is fine with being a piece of something greater. So, instead of openly rebelling against the world government, he chose to depend on Luffy, assisting the young pirate in the hope that he could help Sentomaru, Vegapunk, Kuma, and Bonnie survive. Kizaru just attacked Frankie, but that's, paradoxically, another indication of the fact that he is acting on Vegapunk and the Straw Hat crew's side. To prevent Saturn from murdering the Straw Hats, Kizaru would fight them in his place. He would use safe attacks and hold himself back to keep the Straw Hats alive so that they could do what he, due to his role, couldn't. By doing so, Kizaru aims to hold his Admiral rank in front of Saturn while secretly helping Vegapunk and the others. However, Kizaru might soon be left with no choice but to openly choose a side. As revealed in One Piece chapter 1104, Saturn ordered a buster call on Egghead, meaning that if no one stops the course of events, the people whom Kizaru is so fond of are doomed to die. So, thank you for watching this video, guys, and I will see you in the next video.